Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time on Doctor Who Classic, we listened to the 2002 audio, The Chimes of Midnight. What all happened in that audio?
Well, they got stuck in a Victorian mansion, turn of the 20th century, and it turned out to be a time loop where the house that they had gotten into actually turned out to be alive.
Yeah.
So, kind of interesting, but we've kind of seen that format before, so...
Interestingly, someone has said that the guy that wrote The Chimes of Midnight actually also wrote The Holy Terror.
Oh.
So it actually, honestly, it does make sense that he would kind of recycle the same thing a little bit. But yeah, that was with the 8th Doctor, and now we are moving on to sort of the 9th Doctor, and sort of not the 9th Doctor. This is the alternative 9th Doctor, the animated 9th Doctor, from before the series was officially revived with Christopher Eccleston. And so we are going to be watching the 2003 animated episode, Scream of the Shalka.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It will be interesting. This is technically a new Doctor. It's not someone playing one of the different Doctors. It's just a brand new 9th Doctor, basically. So, yeah. That will be interesting to see. And then next week I was going to say round out the year, but it depends on if you're on Patreon or YouTube or whatever. But next week we will be moving on to the actual 9th Doctor with one of his episodes called Dalek, which will be fun to watch.
Now that's Christopher Eccleston?
Yes.
All right, I don't believe I've seen any of his work.
All right. We will be watching 3 modern episodes. It'll be Dalek, which is the 9th Doctor. The Water of Mars is the 10th Doctor.
That's David Tennant?
Yes.
I have seen a couple of his on PBS.
Yeah, and then we will watch The Doctor's Wife with the 11th Doctor.
And that's Matt Smith.
Yes.
Okay, I've seen a couple of his too.
And it's interesting because that is incredibly close to where I am now in my run through Matt Smith. So yeah, but that'll be later. For now, we are on the alternative 9th Doctor. This is where we say no spoilers, and I am curious if there are any other animated episodes like this. I'm not sure if they have any more with this particular Doctor, so maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'm kind of interested to see what kind of animation this is, because,
yeah, I am too.
In the 70s, they did, like, some animated Star Trek.
Yes.
Which were, okay. But then, when you and your brother were younger, we used to do Saturday mornings with Men in Black and Jackie Chan and Ozzy and Drix and a bunch of those.
Yeah.
And those were all a lot of fun. And then, of course, now the modern day animation or anime is, I think, the Pokemon and Digimon and all those other mons.
Well, that's Japanese, so.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Never got into the Pokemon. Never got into Dragon Ball. Just went out and grabbed us some lunch and noticed that Beyblade is making a comeback.
So. Well, see, that's where you're wrong. None of these shows leave. We just stop watching them. They keep going. Dragon Ball's still going. Pokemon's still going. They're like on their 21st season or something. Yikes. So, yeah. They just yesterday announced a brand new Yu-Gi-Oh show as well. The 7th Yu-Gi-Oh show. Which, when it premieres, will be the 1,000th episode of Yu-Gi-Oh overall.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-No.
Oh, I mean, some of it. Even I'm not a fan of all of it, but we are digressing.
Yes.
To sort of get a little bit back on topic, I have watched 2 modern animated episodes with David Tennant. One of them was 3D animated, and it was the worst animation I've ever seen. The other one, which was 2D, was okay. So it was a lot of stiff animation, and it was very odd. So it'll be interesting to see what this one is like.
Now, do you suppose this animation was to try to bring in a younger audience, or is this simply an easier way of trying to revive it for adults?
I'm not sure the complete story on it. It could be that. Like, maybe this was an attempt at a pilot, because, I mean, technically that's what the movie was an attempt at reviving Doctor Who. It's just that it didn't go anywhere after the movie. So it is entirely possible, or just, because 2003, this was still at that time where they were making a bunch of audios. Holy Terror and Chimes of Midnight had already come out by then. So it's possible that they just wanted to do something a little bit bigger, too. And 2003, I believe that's around the 40th anniversary, too. So maybe they wanted to do something for it.
Because if it premiered in 63, yeah.
Yeah. So I have no idea. I guess the only way we're going to find out about the animation is to watch it. So and I've also heard that one interesting thing about this tiny, odd block we've put into the middle of these classic Who videos is that it can be hard to get to see how many people have actually listened to the audios or hear. I don't know how many people have actually watched this one, but maybe we will introduce it to you. So
blazing new trails.
Yeah, let's find out. Let's get started.
Too much percussion there, but that's all right.
That's the hip-hop version, I guess. Oh, it's widescreen. We haven't had that yet.
Tracking aircraft, can you hear me?
Weird. What's going to be interfering with it up here?
Probably a new radio station, Volcano FM.
So it's not the greatest.
Volcano
but...
FM. Cool.
I see it too.
What is it?
Some kind of worm.
Oh, sure, go closer.
Cute little guy. There's a home waiting for you in Tarangi. Come here.
Did you ever see the Andromeda Strain, dude?
Huh.
I assume that's the scream of the Schalke.
I guess.
But something's odd about it. And where is everybody? Oh, for goodness sake!
So is that the doctor?
Oh yeah, that's him.
Oh no.
This is all her. I told her to shut up.
Does the doctor look like a vampire?
Well,
Single glass of Merceau 96, if you please.
I've seen the actor, Richard E. Grant. He does look like that, so.
I do dry off.
Oh. There goes the TARDIS.
Do you not use euros yet?
You're being cruel to me.
Oh, never, Matilda. I'm a homeless person myself. It's the first thing I am. Here.
Do you know what it's like to be a doctor and stand by and watch these things and not be able to do anything?
Oh, so many answers to that. But no, no interest in giving.
Oh no,
Get behind me.
they say they're down there, in the rocks. They say they're monsters.
That's why I've been sent here.
Who are you?
I know about monsters. I'm the doctor.
Okay. I would have to say that's definitely not for children.
No. So, now, with at the beginning it saying BBC I, this had to have been put on the internet then. I feel like.
Could be, yeah.
So, it definitely feels classic. And it definitely feels like the 3 audios we've been listening to.
Yes, but again, it's so much easier to figure out what's going on because
We can see everything.
I don't know in the bar if I would have been able to distinguish the bartender from the patron. But here it's very easy to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's intriguing. I have to say the animation is not... It's not what you would hope for, but then for television, it rarely is, you know. So, yeah, it's intriguing. It's got my interest. Trying not to use the word interesting.
As simple, you could say, as this animation is, they put a lot of detail into the Doctor's design. which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost a military type coat that he's wearing. Very hard to tell what era that's from, though.
Yeah.
It's almost early 1800s, like pre-Victorian. So I don't know. And then the hair and the.
I think it's just because they drew him. They drew the actor, Richard E. Grant. And it's just when you try to translate him, where it probably looks pretty normal on him, and you translate that to this this type of animation, it just makes it different. So
I would be interested in seeing what Richard E. Grant looks like now.
yeah. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. Because he was in some modern Doctor Who episodes. Let me get to episode 7. Mercy. Da, 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 da. Okay. And there you go.
Okay. So where have we seen him recently? He's been in something that we've seen recently.
Recently, I'm not sure about. Because I looked through here, but I didn't see anything quite. Let's see. He was in A Series of Unfortunate Events as the man with a beard but no hair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but other than that, he was in Logan as the Doctor.
We saw that.
Yeah. And Doctor Who.
Oh, so he was the narrator on that miniseries, The Decade That Made Us. So that's where his voice would be familiar.
Yeah. He was in where is it? Let's see here. There's Schalke. He was in the Patrick Stewart Christmas Carol as Bob Cratchit.
Okay. Scarlet Pimpernel. I directed that. Your mother played Lady Blakeney. Okay, so he's one of those wonderful character actors that you've probably seen him in something at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, easily recognizable. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
And yeah, very tall, very thin.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to part 2. It's a good thing he doesn't have a beard, or else he would just look like a master.
Yeah.
Tremendously.
Oh. Jeez.
You killed them! I do not kill. They're obviously bioplasmic creatures.
Obviously.
Masses of goo. The bodies are just crusts of scabs.
If you say so.
Right now, that's you. In!
So there's super advanced graboids.
The glue is knitting itself back together.
Well,
You're not human.
Decent of you to say.
What are you?
Mildly annoyed. There.
he does kind of feel a bit more modern. Like he's a bit more jokey.
Out.
Honey, it's right next to... our house.
See, that's the second time I've seen a Ninth Doctor blow up a building.
The sonic pulse from that will stun those creatures underground. For hours if I read their looks right. That's the sound of you being free.
For a few hours. Oh, this one's important. It has legs.
That can't be good.
Nope.
Yes. My dear sir, and or madam, say something. Do I take it you wish to board the TARDIS by force?
Tell me that's a truck shaking.
Alison!
Well, there goes them. Oh, wait. These are shorter than I realized. They're not even 14 minutes now. Oh. So, was that the Master?
That's what I was thinking.
That looked a hell of a lot like him, but why would he be there? And because this still has to be after all of the Eighth Doctor's tenure, so he came back again. That is odd.
And proverbial bad penny keeps showing up.
Yeah, and why is he forcing the Doctor to do this? And I kind of thought it was just the TARDIS again. The TARDIS is just screwing with him, forcing him to go somewhere. But if it's the Master, that's a little different. Also, the Doctor has a cell phone. That's new. They have to keep giving him cell phones in modern Doctor Who.
He kept mentioning, I think, speleologists. It strikes me that that must be people who are familiar with caves.
Well,
and he did mention caves in that last one.
Yeah. Right. Well, we can just go right along to part 3.
Here you are, Doctor.
I'm here under duress. Remember that, Major. Don't you ever offer me a gun again.
Now under protest, I'm working with you.
What is it? Dirty great alien monster, sir! Just a guess.
Just a guess.
Throw them into the corner. The sound will hurt it.
You heard him!
I'm afraid I just did give them orders, and it felt so good. That's it! Take me home, big boy!
His next ride at the Carnival Fair, ride the slug.
Yeah. That sounded exactly like a TIE fighter.
Why did I choose continuing existence? Listening to him being right all the time when I had the option of a slow, painful death.
Yeah, that's the Master.
I only come to this planet for the wine and the total eclipses, and I do love a nice old-fashioned invasion. I think this lot could serve. Why did you only invade a tiny bit of Lancashire?
Our ambition is greater than that.
What do you mean, Nottinghamshire?
Well, I'm afraid that I won't play.
Is this all? A simple toy? It was hardly worth your humiliation.
Okay, that's 8 more questions.
A robot master.
I guess.
Just to keep him company?
I don't know.
You were about to leave Joe.
I don't know. Maybe I was hoping he'd come with me.
Did he know how you felt?
I just started telling him how unhappy I was. Only then the place got invaded by aliens and, hey, priorities. And now I'm just hoping he doesn't get,
There's a nice subtle
killed,
humor to this.
Yeah.
It would be so bad now.
We now understand the principles of your craft.
Do you? Could you explain it to me?
A simple cause and effect.
Well, it is definitely interesting. It's
Yeah. and yet there's, I don't want to say it's dragging, but introducing a lot of stuff that then seems to go nowhere. Now, maybe the soldiers will come back.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why he needed them to get down into the caves. You know, and it's again. So I mean, let's just finish it up and see if all of these loose ends get tied up, or if they just turn out to be loose ends.
Yeah, it seems like they're introducing so many things, but this I don't think is a continuing series really. So
You're part of the TARDIS. If I can get you to remember that, I just need a door handle. Don't worry about the sign. Ha! You look busy. Many hands and...
Excuse me, sir, but we've caught one. Oh, no. I was hoping you got crushed under an avalanche.
Reeves.
Sorry, sir. Permission to speak freely, retroactively, sir?
Granted.
You captured a Shalka?
Could be better. I think I'm getting laryngitis.
Keep an eye on it for a moment, eh? I'm just popping out to do something eccentric.
A place called Edale Wood. Thousands of them. The local police thought it was an illegal rave and have called for reinforcements.
That's not on volcanic rock.
Hold on. Oh no.
Ooh. It's a tiny one. Alrighty then.
I have to say, it seems very choppy.
Yeah.
You know, I understand for a modern audience that you want to, you know, used to say the MTV generation, the kids raised on, you know, music videos, things like that. But still, there are so many threads that we see only 15 to 30 seconds of, and then it bounces somewhere else.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't seem to advance the plot because there are too many threads to follow.
Yeah, and it's hard to get a good sense of where this doctor is in his life. The fact that he doesn't really have a companion, but he does have the master for some reason. We're not sure how that works. So yeah, it is an odd one.
And I'm sure that some of the people watching have noticed I've actually yawned a couple of times. And now it's true that we've just finished our first semester and I'm kind of tired, but this is not as engaging. I mean, it's a good story. It's just the way that it has been produced is not, in my opinion, extremely effective.
Yeah. With this weird beat that keeps going on in the background, I keep expecting it to go into Space Jam or something.
And again, Scream of the Shalka.
They haven't overemphasized the scream, even though we do understand what the scream is.
Stop me!
One of us.
Doctor.
I can't find a pulse.
And with so many to choose from. Once the slaves start screaming, perhaps an hour.
Hour starts now. Oh, now it's a rave.
I am the master, and you will
Evening.
come to like me when you get to know me, my dear Miss Cheney.
Peace to you all.
Call us death if you wish, Time Lord, but we bring extinction to the entire human race.
Well, that at least did a little bit more in-depth explaining of Scream of the Shalka.
Yeah.
Because the first 2 or 3 episodes, it just seemed annoying. It didn't seem to have a specific purpose.
I mean, I just figured that the screaming was how they took over people, but now I understand it a bit more. So, yeah. Let's see.
One more.
See how it all wraps up.
The Schalke share the scream like whale song, a way to transmit a lot of messages between each other at high speed.
Just like internet.
Better be whales
That
here.
machine adds automatic coordination. Andy Warhol, as his name said, they always say that time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself. Wonderful man. He wanted to paint all 9 of me.
What are you talking about?
Just, I need you in a very practical way.
Ooh.
Ugh.
Hit me again, George. Perfect pitch. Finally.
Well, it worked down there.
Get you to fire me in the right direction.
I knew they would use the black hole against her.
And this is why I brought you.
Ew. Ugh.
I want you to take your passenger back on board.
Right.
Ugh.
Come to the cabaret. I don't like the military, but I have so many friends in it. I say I do not kill, but then I exterminate thousands.
I was a maid to the doctor after he had lost during the events that so damaged him. In return, he offered me a last chance for salvation. An offer I was foolish enough to accept, as those who punish us are always sending us.
Doctor?
Greaves, how fabulous! You've got a tan.
Permission to thump him, sir?
It suits you, Sergeant. Good for you to get outside.
Because I'm bored.
You can't just saunter off again, Doctor. Not on your own.
You're right, Major. Not on my own.
Doctor?
Yes, Major.
Fancy an extra hand?
Not enough room, Major. She's smaller than she looks. Ah! Ship rules. No running, no jumping, no pushing, and no slapping.
So they're just not going to tell us what happened to him. Okay. Well, that's all right.
Yes, it's all right. It's just, again, I hate to just say why. Of course, doing it live action wouldn't have made it any better. Again, I'm not overly fond of the script. Even at it was barely an hour.
Yeah.
It still seemed to drag in several spaces. And again, the big thing was the choppiness of it. It's just very hard to follow it from this scene to that scene to this scene to that, because it's just tell the story. Don't use all of the technique to try to make it more interesting, because that's lipstick on a pig, as they say. It didn't really help. The animation didn't really add anything to it. So again, if this was simply an attempt to get Doctor Who back in front of people, that's great. But again, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, well, because that's the thing, is we have to remember this is in that period between the movie and the resurgence with the actual Ninth Doctor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. Now, I'm pretty sure this was released on the internet. So maybe it was, 1 week after another, like the original series. And it does sort of have that, the episodic, multi-part thing going on as the classic series. And it did honestly feel like the audios they were doing at the time. So it just seems like they just sort of put the animation over. It almost seems like this was an audio and then they put the animation in later.
Yeah.
Like after they added all the sound effects, everything, all the music, then they added the animation, which honestly, it's a good thing there was animation. I feel like this would be like Damaged Goods, where it's like this is a little too ambitious. It's still a little too ambitious for animation, but
well, to me, I thought the animation was fine. Again, it wasn't spectacular. It was what you would expect for this time period, and especially for television or internet. I hate to use the word, but it was kind of boring.
Nah. Well, and that's the other thing too, is that despite the fact that these episodes were definitely shorter than normal Doctor Who episodes, it was still 6 parts long. It's like, you could have cut that down a bit, because like by episode 3, we already had the Doctor meets our main bad guy and has the talk, and it's like, okay, well, this is normally the part where we sort of lead into the finale, but we still had 3 more episodes to go through.
Yeah.
So
I will again say, as people pointed out with Earthshock, for better or worse, a woman in position of power, and I'm not talking about the girl. I'm talking about the lead Cobra caterpillar, whatever she was there at the end.
Yeah.
They never did. I never did see why she transitioned from what she was up until that.
I think it was just that she adopted a more humanoid form because she said she wanted to. She likes to understand her enemy. So, but then once everything was sort of figured out, that's when she returned back to her normal Schalke form, like the rest of them.
But yeah, having the leader of the Schalke being a female voice again, always glad to see women in great roles.
Yeah. Now actually, before we started, I did. I got a question on Twitter. Someone was asking if we had watched it yet, and so they asked if this felt more like a modern episode, and I said, well, we haven't watched it yet, but now after watching it, it does not exactly feel like a modern episode. He does feel like sort of a modern Doctor, though. Like I felt like he was even a lot more quippy than the classic Doctor, and he was more, I don't know, there was just a lot of like little oddities about him, like I could see like the 11th Doctor doing. So that was
again. This may be overly nitpicking, but the humor was almost thrown away. There is such a thing as the throwaway line, but due to the fact that a lot of it was very fast paced, didn't give us an opportunity to react to it. I mean, we just barely started to go, oh, that was clever, and then it was, again, scene change, we're off to something else, and it's like, oh, okay. So the humor does register, but again, the direction perhaps didn't allow us to appreciate the humor. It was just it's too fast, and they were on then to the next thing.
Yeah, and maybe you could chalk that up to it's a shorter episode. They have to get through more. But when you already have 6 episodes to do this, it doesn't seem like you need to cut. Like, I feel like they would cut back to like the general for like maybe 1 or 2 lines, and then we went back to the Doctor, and it's like, well, why did we need to go back to him for a few seconds?
Yeah, and again, I realized that MTV came in the early 80s and everything like that. But yeah, this trend towards fast cuts. You only see 10 or 15, 20 seconds, and then we're off to another scene. And I certainly don't mean to imply that, it's because of my age, because, I watched a lot of stuff like that in the 80s. I mean, you can even go back to the 1960s with, like, Ronan Martin's Laugh-In, which was, just bit after bit after bit. And Monty Python is very similar to that. But it didn't... I guess what I'm saying is it didn't seem to serve this story. It seemed to be done simply to be done rather than to advance the plot or the script or the humor or anything else. It just,
and I mean, like, you're talking about like the MTV generation and stuff like that. But if it is somewhat like that, that would only apply to that generation. Because I mean, when you go past that, I mean, the shows I grew up on, or even the shows when I got older, like The Flash or Arrow or something like that, they let a scene play out for a while. This was incredibly, it was not fast paced, but we kept just cutting to different scenes faster and faster.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was something. It was something. Let's see. I guess to sort of go over the notes, let's see here. I like the designs of the Schalke.
Yeah.
They were interesting. I can see why you would do this in animation. Like, if you have a bunch of those, like, it would be hard to do, even where I am now in the modern episodes. I'm all the way up to 2013 where, the budgets have been getting higher and higher since the show came back. But still, like, I don't see how you could easily do the Schalke without them all being sort of humanoids.
Yeah.
So, and then I guess just their concept, they, kind of going around like graboids and everyone has to be quiet in this town.
I did like the cowl, whatever it was. That was very reminiscent of the alien. The xenomorph, I guess, is what they call it in the Alien films.
Yeah.
Just that big bony plate behind the head. Again, first time we saw them, I think I mentioned it looked like a giant cobra. But again, even if that is specifically it, that worked very well because humans are instinctively afraid of snakes,
right?
And to see just that kind of reptilian face, that long pointed face, and the glowing eyes, and the big plate behind its head. Again, that was very effective. And then again, what was with the fire in the belly? I mean, it seemed like they had glowing eyes and they had a fire in their mouth, but they also seemed to have some. It looked like some kind of glowing, and they never did explain that. I mean, what was the point of that? Or at least if they did explain it, I missed it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it's just part of their design. I wrote down the doctor's cell phone, which was odd. You could kind of just sort of look past it. I was like, okay, this one particularly just has a cell phone, but they did use it quite a bit in this one, even to summon. Okay, and this is skipping ahead a bit, but to summon the TARDIS door as he was falling into the black hole, and then he goes through, and then he's just in the TARDIS. But the TARDIS didn't move, the door just appeared. I'm not sure how that worked.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, in this one, it feels like there's just there are a lot of things that it's like, okay, this has been introduced, this, and this, and it's like, where did all these come from? What are the stories? How do they affect the plot here? How would they affect the plot if this continued? What? And it just like, and moving on. It was like, what?
There is one just kind of subliminal thing. The first time he picked it up, I thought it was in the shape of the TARDIS. It kind of is, I guess. I mean, it's a rectangular phone, and it's the color of the TARDIS too. And I just thought, well, that would be clever. And then the more I looked at it, I thought, well, no, that was an impression that I got. But then the more he used it, I thought, no, it's just another little, cell phone from the early cell phone designs.
Yeah. Let's see. And also with, stuff they're sort of bringing in, and it's like, well, okay, what's the deal with that? So he has the Master in the TARDIS, and as we see, as he explains later, they were in some sort of adventure, and the Doctor was able to save the Master somehow, some way, and now he is stuck on board the TARDIS.
He seems to be some sort of cyborg.
Yeah.
That the Master's consciousness is inside this machine.
Yeah.
Whereas he doesn't like the Doctor, he's grateful for the opportunity to be there. And so, it was kind of weird. I'm sure that perhaps in later episodes, later serials, that's all explained. I don't know if there was any...
It would have... I don't know, because see, this was, like we said, this was around the time the Holy Terror and the Chimes of Midnight. The only thing I can think of, everything in this had to have somewhat been built up to in the 8th Doctor story, because I don't know if there is anything else with this this alternative 9th Doctor. And he is definitely the 9th Doctor. He is a different form. He references that every once in a while. I was like, oh yeah, I'm number 9 of me.
Yeah, he did reference the... he wanted to let Andy Warhol paint all 9 of him. And if you remember, one of Andy Warhol's things is where he took a single picture and then, what I guess we used to call it, posterized it, different colors of it, primary colors, things like that. But I think there's 9 of them in this one frame. So, I mean, that's a great pop cultural reference. But how many, again, who's this for? If this was for children, they would have completely missed that reference.
Yeah,
the adults, like me, old enough to remember Andy Warhol from the 60s and 70s, and you as a kid who studied history, you might have heard tangentially of Andy Warhol, but it's stuff like that you just go, why? I mean, what was the purpose of that reference?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the purpose was just to be a joke and hope someone got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and they do that sometimes. They occasionally will reference people throughout history, but yeah, I don't know. That one is... It is a little odd. And yeah, so it's like... So with everything here, it's like, I can only assume that whatever happened to the Doctor to throw him into this exile, whatever happened that caused the Master to be put into this sort of cyborg android body and keep him on the TARDIS, I have to assume all of that had to have come from the 8th Doctor audios, because I don't think this particular Doctor had any audios or any other stories. It might have just been this one. So yeah, it's like they just, there's like a lot of lore that now we have to sort of piece together, because I mean, we kind of already have to do that with the 8th Doctor, when you're only given the movie and it's like, okay, well, here's some other stuff, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but what exactly, like, if you go in a straight line from the movie, where does he go and how does he eventually end up back at the real 9th Doctor, technically? So yeah, it's like there were a lot of things they alluded to, and then we're just not really given anything. So,
and for our hardcore Doctor Who fans, please understand, although we love Doctor Who, we have not gotten into it, we have not watched it continually. So there are a lot of things that we refer to, and then in the comments they bring us up to speed on, and we're always grateful for that. But yeah, again, I look at this and go, what is it that we needed to have known before we watched this?
Yeah, and I only now I'm actually remembering, of course, as we have said multiple times, is that these are the episodes we're watching in build-up towards the 50th anniversary, and it's like, okay, well, is there anything, or was this sort of just a, stop on our tour of all the classes? Like, hey, well, now we've seen, every Doctor. Like, okay, when we watch Doctor Who and the Daleks, like, I can almost guarantee that has, like, nothing to do with the 50th anniversary, but we watched it anyway. Hey, there's Peter Cushing's Doctor, Yeah. And it was something. And then it's like, okay, well, now we're watching the animated Doctor, the original 9th Doctor, and it's like, okay, we watched that. Moving on. So
it's like National Lampoon's Vacation. I think I've mentioned this before, when the Griswolds get to the Grand Canyon, and the dad, Clark Griswold, looks at it literally like 10 seconds, goes, okay, and the wife is like, Clark, it's just the Grand Canyon. Don't you think we should take some time and appreciate it? So he puts his arm around her, and he just stands there for like 5 seconds. You can see him going, okay, I've done it. Okay, and they're back in the car and they're off.
Yeah.
So yeah, we may be on a Clark Griswold tour of Doctor Who.
It's entirely possible. So, but that's the thing. It's like when you try to think about it in the context, and maybe that's the wrong idea. Maybe we need to think about it in the context of It's 2003. Doctor Who has only continued through books and audios, and this is what we just got on the internet.
Yeah.
And like, there's no word on any sort of live action continuation. That's another 2 years out before they do that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I wrote down the Doctor's involvement. It took him a while before he was really like, all right, now I'm involved. Like, he wanted to get out of there as much as possible, which was interesting. And also the fact that, the first time, when he destroyed, when he blew up the building, and he was like, okay, that'll hold them off for a few hours, and, the ones that were in there, it'll take them a few days to reform. Okay, I'm out. And it's like, you only said a few days. What are we going to do now? It's like, but yeah, he definitely wanted to get out of there as much as possible. Even, saying like, okay, as soon as I get my TARDIS, I'm getting out of here. So, that was interesting. And I guess it's sort of like, I guess it could sort of, feed into the whole, the Doctor's exile thing and, trying to, I guess he's just trying to get away from everything.
There was one minor thing about the TARDIS that it didn't really bother me, but I don't think we've ever seen it before, was that he was using it not to transport through time, but just to get back and forth, as a vehicle. That he was saying, well, I need to be back here, so I'll take the TARDIS, and it was like that's not something we've ever seen before, where he's actually used the TARDIS just as a transportation device rather than as a time machine.
Well, and that's the thing, is he can use it like that. Yeah. It is a spaceship as well as a time machine. And I have seen him do that a couple times in modern Doctor Who, but more recently he's sort of he has kind of gone back to, well, I'm just going to leave the TARDIS here and I got to go do everything. And the reason he says is that, the TARDIS, it's, the greatest, piece of machinery the universe has ever seen, and he doesn't want that to fall into the wrong hands. And sometimes it doesn't work out properly. Maybe someone will get their hands on it, or like he'll try to send the TARDIS away, but it doesn't work.
It seemed to me the graboids here, as you call them, seemed to breach the door quite easily.
Yeah, that was also sort of odd, is that the Shalka did use their scream and it did open the TARDIS doors. Like, I thought the TARDIS doors were kind of impenetrable.
Yeah.
Like, and it's also interesting that it was only then that the Master decided to do something. So, and I guess that's part of my next one, is he did not have a companion. This is the first time, I think, ever in our classic run that he just did not have, well, okay, in The Deadly Assassin, he didn't have a companion, but he just did not have a companion. He gained a companion through Allison, but for the most part, it was sort of, he just didn't have anyone other than the Master, and that's probably not good for him.
Well, although, having the Master, and then the Master doesn't show up until, the second or third episode. Yeah. So, he does theoretically have one, but then he picks up Allison at the end. Yeah. So yeah, it did strike me at the very beginning that yes, he seemed to be traveling without one, but it seemed to be pretty early on that you knew he was probably going to take Allison, because he talks about how she's way too educated for being the average barmaid, and she says, I've got a degree in history. Well, of course, that would make it the perfect companion.
Yeah.
So yeah. That didn't bother me. I kind of figured that this was a setup to him getting one, and then when you find out that he's got the android master, like you said, the cyborg or robot master there, that's always kind of fun, to having a foil like that. Having somebody who can not just argue with you, but take you down a few pegs.
And it could also be that even though, because in modern Doctor Who they overemphasize that when the Doctor goes for too long without a companion, he starts to get a bit more cruel. He starts to lose a lot of himself because he doesn't have that sort of human side with him at all times. So you would kind of think like, okay, well, if he has the Master there, that can't be, good for his psyche. But then at the same time, I thought, well, what if he has the Master there to remind him not to be the Master? because he's constantly having to go in and be like, all right, master, stop with your crap. We gotta go do this. So, and I think at one point the master was about to hypnotize Allison, and then that's when the doctor sort of stepped in and was like, hi, I'm here too. And the master's like, never mind, let me get back to work. So it could be sort of maybe it is bad that, he has the master there and he needs a more human companion. But at the same time, it is sort of good that he can, with him there, he can try to just not be him. So yeah, let's see. Summoning the door. Don't know how that happened, but it did. The larva. That was just gross. Having it on the head and then taking it out, that was one thing. And then he ate it, and then he spat it up, and then he put it back in her head. Yeah, alrighty.
It's just gross.
Yeah.
It's like, here, let me pop this gigantic pimple and then swallow it.
Yeah. Also, it happens to be screaming this whole time. So yeah,
that's a great name for a rock band, the Screaming Pimples.
Yeah. I will say when the entire world is being taken over and everyone is screaming, I will say that's when the animation it kind of worked in the episode's favor, is that they did look really creepy while they were all screaming. When it cut to I don't know, I swear it cut to the Russian Orthodox Church and they were screaming and stuff like that, and it's that worked.
Of course, me, I had momentary flashbacks of Dragon Ball. As I've said before, it's just all screaming.
Well, that's the thing. If the Doctor really wanted to, counteract the Schalke screaming, then he needed to get some real Dragon Ball screaming. Get that real Super Saiyan rage in there.
And singing a song from the musical Cabaret. I mean, okay, sure. And you would think with all of the rock and roll history that came about in 1963 and right up until the early 2000s, that he would choose a song from Cabaret. I mean, seriously, that was, I don't want to say it was jarring in that it was wrong. It was just why? What's the point? I mean, there were so many other things that could have been done just as easily and would have been funnier. Because there you're wondering, all right, the Doctor saw Cabaret in the early 60s, and now he's singing it. Just, again, don't understand why.
Yeah. It would be really funny if he started singing Immigrant Song. Yeah. That would be... That's a song you yell into a microphone in order to blow up graboids.
And I keep reminding you, too, you have to watch Mars Attacks.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the very end of it, spoilers here for those of you who haven't seen it.
Oh, no.
They put on this country and western singer, Slim. I don't know if it's Slim Whitman or not, but he's a guy who yodels. He does a lot of country western yodeling, like that one CD that Mom has. And the sound causes the Martian's head to explode. So they end up, neutralizing the attack from Mars by blowing up the Martians with Slim Whitman music.
It's interesting how blowing something up with sound can be used to a comedic and serious effect, because also spoilers for Star Trek Beyond, that's pretty much what they do at the end of that movie too, when they blast rock and roll in the speakers and get rid of that entire swarm that destroyed the Enterprise in that movie. So, and there it was kind of, it was cool because we're using rock and roll to beat them, and it's and then something like Mars Attacks is let's just goofy. And I feel here it's sort of a midway point between those is when the Doctor tries singing to them, and that's the thing about this Doctor. It's at first he was serious, he was playing that sort of grumpy Doctor, but he got so quirky during this episode, and it really did feel sort of modern. If this was Tennant or Matt Smith, it definitely felt like a more modern iteration.
At one point, didn't even say, I'm about to go off and do something quirky, or let me be quirky. It's
it was when Greaves, when he was going to leave Greaves in there to sort of test him, and he was like, all right, I'm off to do something eccentric, and he just walked away. So, So yeah, that was interesting. It was an interesting portrayal of the Doctor, and it was definitely different.
It just occurred to me that it would have been, massively more ironic if he had chosen the song Willkommen from Cabaret, because that's a song where you're inviting people to come in, sit down, listen to the music, and then he blows them up with it. So, I mean, I don't know. That's just my that's my odd creative side. Having written a couple of plays, having done that. So I don't know. So let that go.
We did get a bit of backstory on the Schalke, that they sort of inhabit these dead worlds, which is an interesting concept of them sort of just inhabiting all these worlds that, people used to live here, but they destroyed themselves. So the Schalke took it. Like, okay, what drew them to Earth would be my question, though. It's like, well, unless they're just, jumping the gun here, it's like, they're getting there anyway, so let's just go ahead and we'll get in there right now, and then, it just seemed, I don't know, like why this place in particular, especially when they already have a giant empire. It's like, why here? That's why the Doctor even assumed, like, okay, well, I assume your planet is dead, and so you came here. So, yeah. And then the atmosphere, taking away the atmosphere by singing, or screaming for them. That was also interesting, and it did lead to the joke of Greaves getting that horrible sunburn, which was funny. And it's also interesting that Allison was like, if I had like 5 more seconds, I could have not only fixed our atmosphere, but fixed it really well and like defeated all global warming. And when the Doctor's like, oh well, I'll leave the humans to do that on their own, it's like, I probably should have fixed it, Doc. Probably should have fixed it. It's it's 16 years later, no one's done anything.
And we're getting worse about it too.
But yeah, that was funny because it's like, okay, we have a way to not only fix something in the story, but fix something in real life, and it's like, well, no, we can't do that. We have to keep the status quo of our actual Earth in the show. So yeah. And then the last thing I wrote down was the damage. Like, what happened to him? What happened to his last companion? Because there's clearly something happened, which is why, only now does he take on Allison as a companion. Yeah, what exactly happened to him? Was it something with the Eighth Doctor, or was it something that they were maybe planning to sort of build up to revealing? And maybe they were going to do more, but then they didn't, and then we got Christopher Eccleston, and he's the Ninth Doctor. So, and I will say, with taking on Allison and her sort of leaving her boyfriend and stuff like that, that is actually reminiscent of how the actual Ninth Doctor, how Eccleston took on his first companion, Rose. After their first adventure, when they first met, he was like, oh, well, you could come with me. And she's like, no, I think I'm going to stay here. And he's like, okay. And then he left, and then he came right back. He's like, also, this is a time machine. And then she came. And also, when they were saying, like, well, go ahead and call her mom. She's probably already there. I probably already got her back. And it's like, the Doctor always says, it's a time machine. I can get you right back to the very second that we left. And he never does it. It is a constant... And it's actually getting on my nerves a little bit, because he will always say, this is a time machine, I will get you right back. And it never works. So, which is good context going into our next episode, which is Christopher Eccleston's episode Dalek. This is 6 episodes into his one and only series. He only got 13 episodes to him. So yeah, there's a bit of context for his companion too. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. You got anything else?
No, I'm looking forward to getting back to normalcy, as it were.
Yes, we will be getting back to a normal reaction next time, and it'll only be 44 minutes long. So, because episodes are shorter, they're just normal TV episodes for the modern Doctors. And then once we get through our short tour of the modern Doctors. Then we get back to all our good classic Doctors, and we'll pop back with the 3 Doctors. So,
and that's the first 3. That's
I believe that's the first 3.
Hartnell, Pertwee, and
Troughton.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I've seen a clip of that.
Yeah, I've seen. I mean, not a lot, but I've seen like a couple shots of it. So, but yeah, next week we will be moving on to the official 9th Doctor with Dalek. Which, gee, I wonder what that's about. Yeah. Of course, we haven't had a Dalek in a while, have we?
No,
not since the movie. So yeah, we'll get proper Daleks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're back.
Yeah, well, you can never get rid of them. So yeah, that is pretty much it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our Doctor Who Classic reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.